Good evening, and welcome to the public hearing on the 2015-2016 Early Start Columbus Grant. I am Councilmember Jaiza N, Chair of the Education Committee, and I would like to thank you all for joining us this evening. I would also like to recognize my fellow Councilmember Shannon Hardin, who has joined us this evening. Thank you very much. Before we begin, please be aware that this hearing is being recorded for rebroadcast on CTV, Columbus's Government Television Channel 3. The rebroadcast schedule is available at www.columbus.gov. I would now like to ask Director Rhonda Johnson to start the discussion on the 2015-2016 Early Start Columbus Grant Program.
Good evening, Chair Page. Good evening, Councilmember Hardin. Thank you for holding this hearing to discuss the efforts we are making so that every four-year-old in the city of Columbus has access to a high-quality pre-kindergarten education. Thanks to the investment made by Mayor Coleman and this council, we currently offer pre-K to nearly 500 students in 31 locations and in 3 Columbus City school buildings. In 2012, Mayor Coleman and Council President Ginther convened the Columbus Education Commission to address community concerns regarding public education. The commission was charged with examining challenges facing all students living within the Columbus City Schools boundaries and resulted in 55 recommendations grouped into 6 categories. One of the main priorities of the report was to provide universal access to high-quality preschool for every 4-year-old residing in the city of Columbus. The mayor and the commission believe that an investment in early childhood education will prevent achievement gaps, reduce the need for special education, increase the likelihood of a healthier lifestyle, lower the crime rate, and reduce overall social costs. In his 2014 State of the City address, Mayor Coleman announced that he would invest $5 million to jumpstart pre-kindergarten expansion through the initiative we call Early Start Columbus. Early Start Columbus began in the 2014-2015 school year and focuses on all-day, year-round services with curriculum aligned with the Columbus City Schools and the Ohio Department of Education Early Learning Standards. Leveraging the resources of the community, the Department of Education also partnered with the state of Ohio to serve 150 low-income 4-year-olds. The state funding paid for a half-day program. The city paid for the other half-day to increase the number of quality full-day education opportunities. At this time, I would like to introduce Bobby Shannon from the YMCA and parent Jennifer Diggs Williams. They will take a few minutes to talk about their experiences as an early start provider.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Bobby Shannon, and I'm with the YMCA of Central Ohio. I serve as our early education director. I'm here this evening to speak in support of Early Start Columbus, the pre-K initiative, and to support the mayor's efforts to ensure that every 4-year-old in Columbus is kindergarten ready. At the YMCA, we're for youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. The YMCA is the largest provider of childcare and early education in Central Ohio, and we serve over 3,000 children and youth each day in our centers and programs. We understand the value of quality early childhood education and the positive effects it has on school success. This past year, funding from the city for the ESC Pre-K initiative has allowed us to prepare over 50 new Columbus preschoolers for kindergarten. In addition, the funds help to support hardworking families who want quality school readiness programming for their children but cannot afford it. The Early Start Columbus funding is critical for our community. Investing in early education is smart. Data shows that it reduces crime, lowers the need for special education services, leads to a healthier lifestyle, and increases kindergarten entry scores. We know that kids who enter school Okay, this one, there we go. Sure. I'll back up just a little bit and say that we know that kids who enter school behind usually remain behind. The school district alone does not have the resources necessary to provide quality pre-K services to all 4-year-olds in the district. To reach the largest number of children possible, a community effort is needed, with school districts partnering with the existing high-quality pre-K program providers in their neighborhoods. These programs participate in Ohio's Step Up to Quality initiative, which requires teachers to use proven curriculum and assessment practices to ensure individual child outcomes. There is greater capacity in highly rated programs today, and they are eager to collaborate for the benefit of children and families. This is why I ask that you support the vital funding necessary to provide quality early education to ensure that our Columbus children are kindergarten ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shannon. If you don't mind, I have a few questions.
Oh, sure.
And Councilman Hardin may have a few as well. How many sites does the YMCA have?
So we have around 65 sites, but that includes school-age only programs as well. We have 11 that focus on early education.
And of those 11, how many spots do you have available for 4-year-olds?
It depends. So each year, that's one of the cool things about preschool, is each year we graduate a group to kindergarten. So depending on those numbers of how many graduate and go on, that allows the spots. With this new funding, though, we have opened up 3 new locations. So that's where the additional 50 kids are coming from.
Great, that's awesome. Councilman Hardin?
Thank you, Chair Page, and thank you, Ms. Shannon, for coming down. And I want to thank the YMCA for the work that you do every day in our community. My question is about the need that is out there with early childhood education. You know, the city put forth our $5 million investment last year and continue investment in Early Start, and you know, are around 500 to 600 slots funded now. What is the need out there? What kind of gap are we trying to fill? And kind of talk about that from a provider's standpoint in terms of need.
Sure. I don't have Columbus numbers, but I know statewide, when you're looking at the neediest group, so that's really who we're targeting. We're targeting those kids who are already part of that achievement gap before they even start kindergarten. So for that neediest group, about 1/3 of those are currently in quality care in the state.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Shannon. We would now like to call up, sorry, I can't think of her name.
Jennifer Diggs Williams.
Yes, Jennifer Diggs Williams. And Ms. Tori Williams. Thank you, Jennifer and Tori. You may proceed.
So I have been a hardworking parent since my daughter was born. I work at Alliance Data. I am a trainer, and I didn't qualify for Title 20. I didn't qualify for Title 20. They told me I made $3.27 too much a month. With that, I was paying $900 just for one child to be in daycare that was getting her ready for pre-K. On top of that, my rent alone was $750 and then out of car payment. So it was kind of like, do I put my child in school, try to get her into a program, or do I try to find somebody who can do it at home? I didn't want to do that because when you do stuff at home, sometimes they tend to fall behind. So I was just kind of like making it as much as I could to get it to where my daughter was still getting education. I then had another child. When I had my other child, it became that the daycare as well as her pre-K program was now $1,400 a month. I didn't have that. So because I didn't have that, I had to figure out a way. Well, they told me about the Early Start program, the Early Start Columbus program, and I immediately signed up for it. She ended up going to the YMCA. It made it to where we were able to do a whole lot of different things, as well as make it to where she was doing extracurricular activities outside of the program and different learning programs as well. So it made it a whole lot better for us, as well as her education has tremendously changed, where I was worried if she was going to be at the right level. Now she's reading already at a kindergarten level because of the YMCA Early Learning Center. She's already exceeded so many different areas as far as their testing goes for the Early Learning Center. And I know if it wasn't for you guys' program, my daughter wouldn't have that. So for that alone, this program helps so many people, where you're like right in that middle of trying to not be on the government assistance, but still needing that little bit of assistance to push you forward. So with that, I couldn't thank this program in the school enough, because that school has changed it to where she's now learning better. Not only that, she's interacting with children better than she was before. We were in another program where it was kind of like I was paying for the program, but we weren't getting a program. It was like I was paying for daycare services instead of her actually learning. But at the YMCA Early Learning Center, she learns, and that means more to me than anything.
Thank you very much. I have one quick question for you. Could you explain how you found out about the Early Start program?
Yes, I had called to see if there was any kind of way that I could, because I didn't qualify for Title 20, if there were any other programs that could help. I'm like, I don't have it, and I need it because my daughter's education is more important than anything, and I don't want to be the stay-at-home mom, and then we're living off of government assistance. When I can make it, I just need the help. And they were like, yeah, it's a Early Start Columbus program. And with the Early Start Columbus program, I went on ahead and filled out the forms that needed, gave them all the documentation that was needed, and she was like, you're in. And I was like, when can she start? So I found out through calling, I think it's the CFC, Action for Children. So.
Thank you. Councilman Harden?
Thank you, Chair. Your young lady is Miss Lori? Is that
Her name is Victoria,
Victoria.
but we call her Tori. So
Miss Tori. I had a question for Miss Tori.
he's talking to you.
You can talk into the microphone.
Yes.
Can you tell me about your school and your teacher? Do you know your teacher's name?
Yes.
What's your teacher's name?
I can't. Her name is Miss Erin and Miss Stacy and Miss Andrea.
Wow. And what's your favorite part about school?
Doing circle and picking jobs.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming down today. Thank you, Chair Page.
Thank you, Councilman Harden. And Jennifer and Tori, thank you so much for understanding the importance of education. I could tell from having a brief conversation with Tori that she is excited about what she is learning and that she's doing a wonderful job in school. So good job, Tori. And again, thank you, Victoria, for just looking for resources to make sure that your child is ready for kindergarten. And we definitely appreciate parents like you who are concerned about their child's education. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you. On March 4th of this year, the department announced a new grant process for Early Start Columbus and is currently accepting applications until Monday, March 30th at 5 p.m. Based on provider and stakeholder feedback, the department made several adjustments to the process to meet the needs of our community and to create greater efficiencies. One of the most important changes was to align requirements with the standards that have been established by the state and national early learning agencies. Using established guidelines already familiar to early childhood providers ensures high-quality education, cuts down on administrative burden for both providers and the city. To that end, Early Start Columbus will only provide grants to providers that are nationally accredited or have received at least a 3-star out of a 5-star rating under the state's pre-K quality system called Step Up to Quality. Expanding access to high-quality early childhood education is among the smartest investments we can make. The early years in a child's life when the human brain is developing, represent a critically important window of opportunity to develop a child's full potential and to shape key academic, social, and cognitive skills that provide a child's success in school and in life. This work could not be done without the support of our community, the mayor, and this council. At this time, I would be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Director Johnson, for your testimony. I would like to ask, how can the city and the Department of Education continue to raise awareness about education, and particularly this program?
Chair Page, that's a very good question. It's important for parents to have the information and know where to go to get access to programs. And so there are organizations throughout the state that are charged with making sure that parents do know those things. In our community, Action for Children is responsible for that. But our providers also do a really good job of recruiting. This year, we've had partnerships like no other time with the school district. The school district's programs are oversubscribed. For the first time, we were able to get that list of 800 kids and provide that information to parents to let them know that there were programs outside of Columbus City Schools that were high-quality programs. So we could recruit right from that list. We need to do a better job of getting the word out about Early Start Columbus, and so we're working on parent engagement and communications as a part of what we do with our work. I think as time goes on, there's going to be a demand for these high-quality programs, and hopefully the message will be getting out there. I do have to tell you about one instance on the north side of town. There is a huge community from Nepal, and they went out, the program coordinators went out and recruited in neighborhoods and got kids in programs. So sometimes it takes the personal touch, because oftentimes underrepresented groups don't even listen to what might be on the news, but sometimes it takes that outreach and that personal outreach by providers to get kids in school.
Thank you. And I would kind of like to piggyback off of Councilman Harden's question earlier. Can you kind of talk about the need that exists and the available spaces we have and what we can work to kind of fill that gap?
Thank you, Chair Page. There are about 11,000 3- and 4-year-olds who do not have access to high-quality pre-K in the city. So I think there is a capacity to serve about 67% of children, but there is this huge gap of a third of our children not having access to high-quality pre-K. So it's about 11,000 3- and 4-year-olds, and if you split it, it's around 5,000, at each of the grade levels. So there are many, many kids. We're only tinkering around the edges with just our 500. So we need 10 times more funding to be able to serve all of the kids.
Do you have any questions or comments, Chair Harden?
Yes, thank you, Chair Page. Was having a conversation today with someone, and the conversation was about early childhood education. And one of the things that piqued my interest was from the provider standpoint. And so I guess my question to you is, how has that engagement been on the provider side in finding enough qualified providers in the community that we can then work with to open up availability?
Chair Page, Councilmember Harden, we have this fantastic relationship with our providers. And, I have to say, the Y has been a big partner in helping us, even opening up slots, even after the school year has started. The Columbus City Schools, you recently approved legislation to offer 40 slots in Columbus City Schools yet this year. So the word is getting out there. The providers need they need other folks in the community to step up too to provide spaces. We were fortunate that some of our providers are co-locating in Columbus City School buildings. And so if we can get the space licensed, we don't have to necessarily offer it in a school building, but we have to have a licensed space. And so when some of our providers are getting funding, whether that's Head Start funding or from us, oftentimes they do need the space to be able to expand. A good problem for us would be to have an over-demand and nowhere to go. But we need everyone to step up and offer, quality spaces for our kids. But the Y is here, and they've been very helpful also with CDC Head Start. They're operating some units in the school buildings as well. So you have places that the lights are on and, already. So that does help defray some costs that might be involved.
And then my last question is about who is eligible for early start opportunities. And Ms. Diggs kind of talked about it a little bit, but I think that's an important point about the early start dollars in terms of us expanding these slots.
Thank you for that question, Chair Page, Councilmember Harden. The children who are eligible are those families that are no more than 300% of the federal poverty level. And that's different from many of the other programs where the requirement is much lower. Ms. Diggs explained very well what happens when you make just a little too much money to get a subsidy, but not really enough to afford pre-K. So with Early Start Columbus expanding that to 300% of the federal poverty level, we're able to help families like this who wouldn't otherwise qualify but really can't afford the pre-K.
Thank you, Councilman Harden. I do have another question, Director Johnson. Can you speak briefly to the relationship and the partnership that you have with Columbus City Schools, just as far as funding, how you're able to get the spaces, and just how that is working out?
Chair Page, right before school started the last year, we were needing spaces for pre-K slots because our providers did not have the space, but we knew that there were empty classrooms in Columbus City Schools. I had just left Columbus City Schools, so I know the landscape pretty well, and we know that there were empty classrooms. And so we worked with the folks there in operations, and they actually did walks of buildings and said, we have these buildings with these classrooms available. And then the board approved that. The Board of Education approved that in August for us to be able to co-locate units right in those buildings. While there have been some operating in our schools before, it had never been an open process. It may have been based on, the relationship that a person may have had with that particular building principal, but they actually gave us a list of all the empty spaces that they had, empty classrooms. And then the city stepped up to get those classrooms licensed and inspected right away so that kids could start. It's just been a great relationship with both the city and the school district doing that. And we appreciate them also opening a unit just this year, just this month actually, at the refurbished or remodeled Stewart Elementary School. They're going to have a pre-K unit there. So 3 months of pre-K is better than no months of pre-K.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Well, I think it is apparent that our education department is doing great work across the city and desires to make sure all of our children are kindergarten ready. I would like to thank everyone for their testimony this evening, and I'm so happy that people are invested in our children's futures. I would like to thank Director Johnson, Deputy Director, Hosanna Techie, Sierra Adams, and Kirsten Fluellen for preparing their materials this evening and for presenting on the issues. I would like to thank Councilman Shannon Harding for attending as well. And also, I would like to note that he played an integral part in the commission in its early stages in going out, gathering the information that we needed to prepare our students and make sure we have a strong education system here in Columbus. So thank you for that. I would also like to thank Sherry Martin and Jasper Person for their work in scheduling this hearing and working with the Education Department, as well as our speakers, Ms. Bobby Shannon, Becky Simonillo with the Y, and Jennifer Diggs-Williams and Little Tory for investing in our education here across the city. Thank you very much, and let's continue to make this the great city to live, work, educate, and raise a family. Have a good evening.